Before the fire, there was a promise, a place called Rosewood, nestled in the Florida pines. This wasn't just land, it was a testament. Founded by freedmen who declared they would never again ask for permission to live, Rosewood was a symbol of black self-reliance. Families built their own homes, planted gardens, and ran their own businesses. Sawmills, a school, a Masonic lodge, 2 churches. Names like Carrier, Goins, and Morton weren't just names. They were pillars of dignity and hard work. Rosewood didn't need the nearby white mill town of Sumner. It was thriving on its own terms, proof that black success could flourish on American soil. But in this country, that kind of prosperity has often been seen as a threat, a quiet act of defiance to those who measured their own worth by keeping others down. It all began with a lie. New Year's Day, 1923. In Sumner, a white woman named Fannie Taylor claimed a black man had attacked her. There were no witnesses, no evidence, just a story to hide a bruise from her white lover. But the lie spread like wildfire. Newspapers printed it without question. By nightfall, the story had turned into a mob. White men, calling themselves a posse, loaded their rifles into Model Ts. Sheriff Bob Walker tried to quell the rising fury, but rumors burned hotter than reason. The mob found Sam Carter, a local black blacksmith, and lynched him, forcing him to confess to a crime that never happened. His body was left hanging from a tree, a brutal warning of what was to come. They were heading for Rosewood next, but when the mob descended on Rosewood, they found more than fear. At the home of Sarah Carrier, her son Sylvester had made a stand. "If they cross that fence, we fight," he told his family. Sylvester was a piano teacher and a hunter, a man who refused to be broken. As the mob surrounded his home, the first shots rang out from his porch. A white man fell, and then chaos erupted. Bullets tore through the wooden walls and shattered the windows. Children huddled under the bed as Sarah Carrier prayed, until a bullet struck her down as she shielded her grandchildren. Sylvester fought back with everything he had, firing until his gun was empty, until all that remained was smoke, screams, and the encroaching flames. The house burned, but Sylvester's heroic stand bought precious time for others. It gave them a chance to escape into the darkness of the surrounding swamps, running towards the one place they might find sanctuary, John Wright's general store. In a world consumed by hate, conscience can be a powerful light. John Wright was a white man, the owner of the Rosewood General Store, but he chose humanity over prejudice. As his neighbors' homes burned, he opened his own, hiding terrified women and children inside. He fed them, tended to their wounds, and whispered for them to stay silent as the headlights of the mob's cars swept past. Outside, Rosewood was being erased. Churches crumbled into embers, homes were looted and torched, and the school was turned to ash. For 2 agonizing days, the mob hunted down anyone with dark skin. Some were dragged from the swamps and murdered. Their bodies were left in ditches, their names unrecorded, their deaths shrouded in a deliberate, chilling silence. Rosewood was becoming a ghost town, not by abandonment, but by annihilation. While the fires still smoldered, a quiet act of defiance was unfolding on the nearby railway tracks. 2 white train conductors, brothers John and William Bryce, made a decision that history nearly erased. Against their orders, they guided their train out of Gainesville under the cover of night. Following a signal from John Wright, they slowed the train to a stop near his store. From the brush, survivors emerged like ghosts from the smoke. Mothers clutching their children, their faces streaked with soot and terror. The Bryce brothers ushered them aboard, hiding them under tarps and coal sacks. They rolled the train slowly and quietly northward, not stopping until they reached the safety of Gainesville. In that single, courageous act, dozens of lives were pulled from the inferno, saved by 2 men who risked everything to do what was right. By the end of the week, Rosewood was gone, wiped off the map. Where a vibrant, self-sufficient town once stood, there was only a field of blackened stumps and charred remains. The only building left standing was John Wright's house, a lone white structure in a sea of destruction. The survivors scattered, seeking anonymity in Gainesville, Jacksonville, or anywhere they could disappear. They never went back. Their land deeds were stolen or seized by the county, and the official record simply called the town abandoned. White newspapers fell silent. The state of Florida acted as if Rosewood had never existed at all. For 70 long years, the survivors carried the weight of this horror in whispers. They told their children not to ask, not to remember. As one survivor later said, "You couldn't talk about it. They'd kill you again just for telling." The trauma was buried, but it was not dead. But truth, no matter how deep it's buried, has a way of rising to the surface. In the 1980s, the whispers grew louder. Descendants of the survivors, like Arnett Doctor, Minnie Lee Langley, and Roby Morton, who had escaped the massacre as children, began to speak out. They broke the 70-year silence, and their stories matched, detail for horrifying detail, the lie, the mob, the fire, the train. Their courage sparked a new investigation. Journalists started digging, unearthing old county records, suspicious death certificates, and land deeds that mysteriously vanished after 1923. The evidence became undeniable. In 1993, the Florida legislature officially opened an investigation. The final report confirmed everything the survivors had been saying for decades. A lie had been used to justify the complete destruction of a town, and the state had knowingly looked the other way. A year later, in 1994, Florida did something unprecedented. It became the first state in U.S. history to pass a bill to compensate survivors of racial violence. The state paid $2.1 million to the remaining survivors and their descendants. Of course, no amount of money could ever replace a lost home, a lost community, or a lost loved one. It was a drop in the ocean compared to the generational wealth that was stolen. But it was something more than money. It was an acknowledgement. The state was finally forced to admit its role in the cover-up. The ghosts of Rosewood, silenced for so long, were finally given a voice in the official record of history. The truth was out. Today, a few road signs are all that physically mark the spot where Rosewood once stood. The pines have grown back, covering the scars on the land. But the roots remember. Every year, descendants gather on that sacred ground to honor the families who built a dream and refused to let it die in silence. They stand on the soil where their ancestors fought for freedom twice. First, by building a town with their own hands, and second, by ensuring its memory would survive the flames. Rosewood was destroyed by racial hatred, but its story has been rebuilt and reclaimed by Black resilience. That is the truth they tried to bury for over 70 years. And it's a truth we must continue to uncover, because forgetting is what allows history to repeat itself. Rosewood may be gone from the map, but it lives on in the blood and in the story. And as long as we continue to tell it, the town of Rosewood still stands, not in wood and brick, but in the unbreakable spirit that refuses to burn. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to learn more about the hidden histories that have shaped our world.